Welcome back to another edition of Value My Vote, one-on-one with the candidates. And we're joined by 8th District candidate, Mr. Dayvon Love. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing pretty good.
That's good. That's good. Well, thanks for joining us today. Joining the voters, actually showing what your platform is and why you're running to be the next city councilman in the 8th District. For the background, we're actually here today in the Evanston Village barbershop in the shopping center of Old Evanston Avenue. And you're running against incumbent Helen Hope.
That's right. That's
24 years old. You're currently the president of the Leaders of a Beautiful Struggle. Why would a 24-year-old want to run for city council? And why the 8th District and why now?
Well, first I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity, this platform, to talk about myself and about my candidacy. I think one of the things, growing up is noticing that many of the conditions that exist in our communities affect young people in ways that are unique, in the time and that we occupy right now. And for me, it's really important not just to sit on the sidelines, but really get involved in many of the things that are going on. And so one of the reasons why myself and my colleagues formed Leaders of a Beautiful Struggle is to figure out a way to get those who are most disaffected by the public policies that this city has endorsed and has continued to perpetuate the conditions that exist in our community, figure out a way to address those in a substantive way. And so I felt the need that I needed to get in this race because I feel like I have a particular perspective, and particularly my background in intercollegiate policy debate, really rigorously testing the issues of public policies with people all over the country, people from Harvard, Michigan State, and being able to have that critical analysis and focus on public policy, but also being of the community, I think is the synthesis that's necessary to be in that seat of power, being able to articulate the needs of those who, traditionally don't have a voice in politics.
Speaking of that, you're amongst the people in the district. Many of the candidates or the incumbents, let's say, that are in office don't actually make the time to talk to the voters in their own district. We're in a barbershop where a lot of people are unemployed and are looking for jobs. What would you do as a councilman to change that perception? Yeah,
one of the things that needs to be changed in Baltimore is the way that we do business. Traditionally, the method of economic development is luring outside industry to come in, create jobs, and increase the tax base. What I would advocate for is a vision of economic development that focuses on collective economic development. This means that using the city government to assist people in forming businesses, right, and engaging in entrepreneurship. We have many of those resources in place, but they're not organized in a way to benefit many of those people who have the entrepreneurial spirit in the city but don't have the formal skills. The other thing I would also do is I would advocate extreme tax breaks for those who are doing small business, because one of the reasons why a lot of people don't start businesses in Baltimore is because the property taxes are higher than anywhere else in the state of Maryland. And so I would significantly decrease taxes for small businesses to give them the ability to start up, because it's difficult to start a business worrying about many of the expenses they're going to incur simply through taxes.
A few weeks ago, Leaders of a Beautiful Struggle put on an education forum at Coppin State University. Obviously, education has been a very big issue here in the city of Baltimore. It's been a platform that you guys have tackled over and over and over again. In the city of Baltimore, we're the lower prong of the state of Maryland in terms of education. Only 15% of the budget of Baltimore City goes to education. 45% goes to crime and safety. What would you do to change that dynamic?
One of the things that is frustrating about the configuration between the Baltimore City public school system and the city is that the city doesn't have very much control. Right, and so much of what my advocacy for education would have to go to Annapolis, and I would have to lobby in Annapolis to represent the constituencies that usually are involved in that process. And so a lot of what I would do is I would lobby, and not just for the funding, because I think one of the things that is overemphasized is the funding, right? And while there needs to be a whole lot more funding of education, we also need a vision of education that actually addresses the concerns of ordinary people. For instance, many of the people that I've talked to, many of my elders who lived in Baltimore, grew up in Baltimore, they had opportunities to become electricians, right? They had more industrial and vocational education available to them that they could use to make a decent living, right? With the rise of IT, we could train people to do a lot of the IT stuff. There's a huge market for it. It doesn't require comprehensive academic education, right? And these are the types of things that we would want, high school students in Baltimore City to do to be able to make a decent living. We'd also want to provide the opportunity for young people to be able to learn how to start their own businesses. You have all these people running around thinking about making money money, right? And why not channel that energy using the educational facility and providing them the proper tools to do it effectively, right? And so those are some of the things that I would advocate for, as well as making sure that there's a social justice component to the education, because I think that's something that a lot of people in this generation, young people in this generation, are lacking, is a vision and consciousness about social justice and what that means for Baltimore, and then what that means for their own lives.
We're in the middle of, really, you have to call it an epidemic. 47,000 plus vacant homes, boarded up houses in the city of Baltimore. It's a very big eyesore. What would you do to kind of tackle that particular problem?
Well, there are two primary things that I would do. The first is that many of the properties that are owned by the city is just sitting on, right? Not really using them. And so one of the things I advocate for is the properties that the city owns, use them to provide services to the community. Maybe use them in helping businesses start out, right? Maybe sell them to smaller businesses that want to start, and give them significant tax breaks on it. Give them significant discount on the properties. The reason being is because, unfortunately, many public officials, they think of the economic welfare of the city in terms of the city's budget. And my notion of what economic development means in the city is based off of how much money are in the hands of the people in Baltimore City. And so that's one of the things that I would do, is I would advocate for city government to give over some of those properties to people that could be using them productively to generate revenue and generate economic success amongst the people in the city. And then the other thing I would do is I think we need to be creative about how we use some of this space. So one of the things that's becoming popular in other cities is urban gardening. And this ties to the issue of public health, that if we're able to use some of those properties for things like urban gardening, not only can we address the health issue, right, but we can also address the food deserts that exist in Baltimore City. Howard Park, which is a part of District 8, is an example of a food desert where there isn't a really major supermarket. So you don't have anywhere to get fresh produce. And so using some of these vacant properties to provide that opportunity, I think, is another way to use the resources the city isn't using in order to benefit the people who need it the most.
What if people need to get in contact with you? If they want to get more information about your candidacy, how can they get in contact with you?
You can email me at Dayvon, so Dayvon, at lbsbaltimore.org. Or you can call me at 443-529-3374.
Give that number one more time.
443-529-3374.
Okay. Dayvon Love, candidate for council in the 8th Councilmatic District. Thank you so much for coming on to Value My Vote, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you.
All right, and we'll be back with more of Value My Vote.